So starting off in this video, as you can see, there is a man dunking a chicken into the water. Now, this is important. This water needs to be 100 degrees or over. Boiling temperatures, basically, just so that you can make sure that the feathers are loosened from the bird and they will come out much easier. Now, here is a commercial grade chicken plucker. It is, these are pretty standard in many facilities. We have one for rent though, so that it can be used by our LaRue County Ag Department. Now, you can see us just plucking a few stray feathers from the bird. Not really much of a big deal, just wanting to get all the feathers we can off that the machine hasn't. Now, just to go ahead and say sorry, there is no audio in this video. This is a voiceover due to the fact that there were so many people around, it was hard to record in that moment. Also, you can see that my hands are covered in blood. I was cutting the heads off and helping with that for most of these birds. It is important to wear gloves, but my hands were clean. That blood was just left over from the past couple birds. Now, as you can see, I'm cutting off the feet of the birds. It is best to go in the front and in the back. Try not to cut towards yourself like I did. I did end up cutting myself later in the video, but it was a very small cut. It's just best to be careful. These knives can be pretty sharp, and unfortunately, I'm not the most experienced with this, as you can see as I continue to saw away at the wing tip. Now, like I said, it is important to have clean hands. This bird was just used for demonstration, so it is not as important for this particular moment. This bird was a bit larger. It was a hen, not a rooster, but it was a bit larger because it was about 2 weeks past the date it should have been slaughtered. So it is a much heavier set bird. So you can see slicing towards the skin and trying to slice that joint in between the bones and then snapping it so that it cuts away a bit easier. That one did take me a bit, but the next one was much more efficient. It just takes some practice to really try and master this skill. It'll definitely take several dozen birds before anybody can really get used to it. And these birds were a bit larger, so that does definitely put a different factor into what we were doing. Now, as you can see, cutting the skin and not into the breast is very important. Just cutting in there, trying to get the neck out. You can kind of tear it once the hole is large enough. I did not cut all the skin right the first time, but just basically puncturing that instead of cutting down into the meat or the bird. So, taking my hand, I'm feeling for just the right spot to start and cut the neck off of the bird. Neck is not really a desirable part of the bird. Definitely do not cut towards yourself like I do. I just have a bad habit of this, and it is somebody who was doing this all day would definitely want to get better at. I only did the one bird though, as I was the one who actually had to cut the heads off a bird, which is something that could not be demonstrated in this video or it would have been taken off YouTube. Now, this does take me a bit, but it's not a necessary part. It's just more of aesthetically pleasing part to do. But basically, doing similar what you did with the legs and the wingtips, and just kind of getting in between those two bones and snapping the joint and then cutting the rest of the flesh and skin off. So flipping the bird over, there was a slight camera readjustment, but you can see I cut the skin there similar to how I cut the neck. I think I did have to cut a bit deeper, try again, just to make sure that, don't want to cut the guts, but you do need to be able to get down in there. So it's very important. Now my hands are a bit larger, so they did not fit into the hole that I made quite as well as someone with a bit smaller hands would have, but it did seem to work pretty well. So as you can see, I'm pulling some of the intestines out. You want to really reach around in there and make sure that you get everything. I would also suggest maybe not wearing bracelets. I was not aware in this video that I was, but just for sanitary purposes, try not to wear too much jewelry as it could perhaps catch on the bird. So right there looked like the heart, and then you can see some of the intestines. There is a gallbladder that was removed. Just trying to reach around in there. I think there was a piece of small intestine that was still stuck on by some fat, so I ended up taking my knife in and trying to cut that out. Also, it's also important to make sure these birds don't eat for about 24 hours before you process them, just to make sure that there is no fecal matter getting onto the bird. There was a bit that leaked out of this bird, but it really wasn't too big of a deal, as this was just more of a demonstration bird. So as you can see, I'm just trying to get whatever leftover insides there is, and I think I ended up cutting out the cloacal area of the bird in this video. I think this is the part where there was a bit of small intestine just left over, and you can always use your knife to get whatever your hands can't get. Yeah. So as you can see, I'm cutting out the cloaca area of the bird, just trying to get over. There was some feces that came out on the outside, but luckily none really got in on the inside that I'm aware of. And then I did end up leaving the tail on, I do believe. So now the bird was done. I picked it up by the legs, trying not to get too much of a mess on the inside of the bird. And walking over here to a man with a water hose, we then rinsed out the inside of the bird. So just going in from the back, you can take this water hose and rinse out any of the innards of the chicken. Yeah, this is a rather quick process. You just want to make sure everything's done well, but also got them to rinse off the tail, as there was a bit of feces on that. Now, for most factory places, you would want to be much more sanitary than we were, but we just kind of rednecked our way through this. Luckily, there was no cuts on the breast or any other parts of the bird. I would still say this is a good quality bird.